Hey guys, Extus here. And if you're watching this interview anywhere else but our private community called High Ticket Client Attraction Insider Circle, our private community on Facebook, be sure to come join us. We definitely love to have you. That group was created specifically for coaches, consultants, service providers who are serious about scaling to 6 and 7 figures within the businesses. So if that sounds like you, come join our community. We'd love to have you in there. Now, today, I have a good guest here for you today. Her name is Madelaine Gomez. And Madelaine, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Extus.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for the opportunity.
Love it, love it. Awesome. So, in terms of what I'm going to share with you here today, guys, Madelaine, she has an awesome story and she's just a really wonderful, awesome individual. Now, with that being said, Madelaine, tell us a bit about what it is that you do.
You know, Extus, it looks like I'm always there when there's transformation taking place. So I either help people going through a transformational period in their lives, or I help leadership and managers, CEOs and directors since 1994 to navigate transformation in their businesses. So I am I am assisting people to step into their full potential and to be authentically who they are, whether they're a leader, director, a manager, or whether they're a staff member. I have the ability, and it's probably, I see it as my gift, to connect with people and to help them to step into their potential and really live a fulfilled life, enjoy what they're doing, whether it's in their job or in their career, business. But that's my job, is transformation.
hmm Okay, perfect. So transformation. Now, what is your definition of transformation? Yeah, what is transformation? Because I've heard that word said quite a few times, but in your definition, what is transformation?
Transformation to me means that a person doesn't see their own brilliance, and they're not in their purpose, and they are caught up in a limited mindset, limited thinking, and I help them to transform into who they really are, out of the past, out of the limited mindset, out of the limited thinking, and full into their potential.
hmm Okay. So something you mentioned, I think you said someone can't see their they don't see the potential. They can't really see. I guess is that the question is that what you're saying? Some people like sometimes you can't really see what you're capable of. Is that about right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you know, due to our lives and due to what we experience in life, we go through negative experiences and we are programmed in our mindset between the age of 1 and 7, and thereafter add all the experiences to it. So we start to believe this is who we are. And then in our adulthood, we look at our results, and the results are not exactly what we want. We repeat bad relationships. We have a lack mindset of money. We're happy to do just a job instead of making it a career or step into your potential. And that all stems from limited mindset, from your old programming. Now, I like to take a person, I design certain exercises to do that I do with my clients, where they start to realize they have inner abilities, they've got skills, they've got strengths, they've got values. That's not business, that's personal. And when you combine all of that and you look at what's coming out of there, then they start to wake up to their own potential, their own brilliance, and then they start to design a world they want to live in.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Something fascinating you said was that we're programmed between ages 1 and 7. Like, what do you mean by this?
It means that you're born into a culture, a color, a society, a belief system, a school, a church, your parents' belief system, or wherever you've been brought up into.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, you've taken it on, and now it's becoming your beliefs. But time changed from that time when it worked for our parents to where we are now. That belief system's not working for me anymore. And so does it not for my clients when they're older, even from 7 to 21. And now you come to a point where life is really pushing you into a corner and you think, what's going on here? why do I keep on attracting the wrong people into my life for a relationship? And that is when you start to, okay, this is how it happens. It's stemming from there. It's got something to do with my self-belief, with my self-esteem, with my confidence levels, with what I've been exposed to that became part of my programming.
Hmm. Okay, that's so fascinating. So you said we were ultimately programmed between the ages of 1 and 7. Now, I guess, is there any type of exception? Because that sounds like, whoa, so between 1 and 7, like we really don't have any control of what beliefs we take on, what values we take on, and all these different things. Like, is there any exception to that, or is it just that that's what it is?
I think that's mostly what it is because we are born um, with an open subconscious mind, but not a conscious mind. So then it starts, it's literally you copy what you see every single day. I'm speaking Afrikaans and English. Why? Because I grew up with it around me for years. So what you hear and see every day becomes your programming, becomes part of you. So
Hmm.
that's why there's a lot of people that grew up, say, with domestic violence, and they end up with a relationship in domestic violence. You start to copy and you don't even know it because now it becomes part of you. When you're an adult, now it's part of your, I call it programming because I see it like it's programmed in our energy field and we attract who we are.
Hmm.
And then you start to believe this is who you are. And what you believe is what you attract. So if you want to change that, you need to go back and see what thinking, what mindset is tripping you up to repeat the cycle of whatever negative response you want to change. And investigate that, see what caused that. And most of the times I find it's in the childhood when it started.
Hmm.
And then when you heal that, you can replace that with a positive um, you can change that habit with a positive habit. And that is aligned with the outcome that you want to achieve. So
Yeah.
it's all aligned, our thinking, our habits, our personality, and our goals are all aligned. And that is what we need to learn to look at. Where do we want to end up and change all? And then you go back and you change it all.
Hmm. That is so powerful because I know my own experience with that as well too. Because I when I first started my consultant business, because as you know, I help coaches, consultants get consistent clients to their businesses. And when I first started off with my business, I definitely struggled quite a bit, and I couldn't really understand what was happening. I couldn't figure it out. And it wasn't until a lot of what you talk about here, which is when you program between 1 and 7 years and what you believe, your values, all these different things, they're just in you, and you really can't
Mm.
write them. I found that I really didn't start having success. I used to set all these big goals. I used to say, well, I want to get up to like maybe $20,000 per month for my business. And I used to have all of these big goals. And for the life of me, I just couldn't figure it out. And I wanted it, but for whatever reason, there was just some type of internal block inside of me. And it wasn't until I started addressing those blocks that I start hitting those consistent monthly incomes and start getting those consistent high ticket clients to my business. So that's very fascinating that you brought this up. Now, the next question becomes: how do you help someone overcome this type of stuff? Do you have a process that you could take them through to kind of begin seeing their own brilliance and to begin getting out of these negative habits and those different things?
I do, when I look back at my life, I actually realized that I started to do it in 1994 with unemployed truck drivers already. But I never actually put a label or any meaning to it at that stage. It was just who I was. And I was just put in a situation where I came across them and I wanted to help them. When now, through my journey, and I experience everything I teach myself, so throughout my journey up to now and all my studies, I actually finally the penny dropped of how I need to design this workshop or course or sessions. It can only be in 8 sessions. It cannot be less, it can be more. And there's a reason for that. to help people to, first of all, identify your blocks and what is giving you the outcomes that you don't want. Because they're all within us, they're all in our belief system. If it's money, why is there lack? Where's the lack coming from? And I find people with a lack of money or a fear of a lack of money. I've got one client, he's got a lot of money, but he works himself to death because he's so scared he's going to run out. And the reason for that is his upbringing. He was brought up in poverty. And at a very young age, he had to go and look for food, and he had to look after his family, and so on and so on and so on. So that instilled in him that he's never having enough. So the lack of money or the lack of resources is very deeply ingrained in him, so much that he's overworking himself. So now when we could identify where it started, and I can show him from there to now, he's now 45, he's never had a lack. He's never needed to worry about it. He can stop. He can have a balanced life because all he needed is to change his view. The view should not be focused on the lack that he had. The blessing in the situation is actually, he learned from a very young age to be independent. He learned from a very young age to be responsible and accountable because he looked after his family. He learned from a very young age to barter and to make ends meet. And that served him well now in his career because he's super successful. But he doesn't need to worry about the lack anymore, because if he carries on worrying about the lack, he's going to attract more lack to him.
That is so powerful. And it kind of reminds me of my own story as well, too, because when I first started my consulting business, I remember literally, how do I describe this? It's like almost like kind of like a vision, but it wasn't a vision for the positive. It was more a vision for a negative. I mean, when I first started my consulting business, I moved down to California with about $30,000 in my bank account. And I said to myself, okay, that's going to be enough for me to grow my business. And I tried every single thing, bought different programs, hired different mentors, and did all of these different things. And a lot of what I learned were just the external techniques, like do this, build this funnel, set this up. And I did all of it. I worked hard, I worked long, I did all of it, but the results just, they weren't there and I couldn't understand. And it got to a point where I tried so much, all of a sudden the vision I had in my head wasn't a vision of succeeding. It was more a vision of, okay, this is probably not going to work. So every single thing I did was come from a place of, this isn't going to work. And it was funny. What's funny is that because that was my frame, that really happened. I remember starting off from, I probably went through like $130,000 trying to grow my business. And I literally remember ending up with $1,500 and like $97 in my bank account. And when I got there, it was like, I couldn't understand it, but I kind of unconsciously knew that that was something I created. There was something in there because I saw that happen. I saw that this wasn't going to work. And what you share is really powerful because it's definitely aligned with that. Now, you said something you help individuals do is to say you help them identify where it started. So if someone is having some issue or whatever, you help them identify where it started. Now, is that possible? Because as you said, you get programmed from age 1 to 7. But do you remember? Because I know for myself, when I think about my journey, there's some instances I remember in when I was growing up and stuff, but it's very rare. There's very few of them. Do you ever run into individuals who, when you try to help them go back, they don't know where it started? How do you deal with that?
I don't. Actually, we all remember somehow or the other. We remember the pain more than the joy. And it's because it's coupled with an emotion. So if I look at my story, for instance, I grew up in a domestic violent home, very domestic violent home. And in normal terms, people gave me no chance to survive or to become other than what I saw and witnessed up to the age of 15. I did not receive love. I did not receive nurturing. I was an adult at the age of 7, so I took up all the adult responsibilities. My mum worked, my father worked, and so on. So I looked after my siblings, I cooked, I cleaned, I did everything. And then at the age of 15, after one hell of a night again, I decided, I must say this, that all along there, even at a very young age, I remember myself, I can see it in my heart, that big, that small. I always said, I'm going to have a different life. I don't need to be like this. So I must say, I made that decision deep into my soul and my DNA then already without knowing much more about it. So when I got the call that night when I went to bed after a hectic night and I didn't sleep, it's in the middle of my exams and so on, I heard a voice, I always had a voice speaking to me from the inside. It's a whole other story, but it said, you're never going to need school again. So the next morning, I went to school, gave my books in, and I left school. I didn't tell anybody. I went home, my mum was there, and she said, what are you doing here? Are you sick? And I said, no, I left school. And she said, no. I said, you will never tell me again what to do.
Mm-hmm. And
I know.
How old were you that time?
15.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a tiny thing. Anyway, so she was shocked, but she realized, I don't know if it's that inner voice that comes through with, when people don't argue. And she just looked at me and that was it. So I had 5 rand in those days, which is really nothing. You don't even get a 5 rand. And I took that the next day and I got on the bus to town, find work by lunchtime. I walked from place to place to place, asked for a job, and most of them said to me, go back to school. And I said, no, I'm not going. I want a job. And then I found a job by 12 o'clock lunchtime. And I started the next day in a retail store in Fushini in South Africa. Anyway, and that was the start of my journey and my career. And that mindset catapulted me into my future. That was the mindset I had all along. Never ever thought of my past, never actually pay attention to what blockages I had because I didn't know I had any, because I was so absolutely successful and driven to be successful. So at 24, I started a career at Xerox. I was the best rep for 4 years for them. Then I went into my own business. At 36, I was a millionaire and never thought of any of this. And then it happened where my life stopped. And my husband, first my brother died. I fell pregnant late in my life. I had my business for 2 years and then I fell pregnant unexpected. So during that time, my brother died. Then 2 years, my son was 2 years old. Then my husband died unexpectedly of cancer. And then I sat there and I said, wow, who am I? The 2 people dearest to me gone. Literally the carpet being pulled from underneath me. I haven't even recovered from my brother's death. And now I lost my husband. And I met him at 17, married him at 21. The only man I knew. And here we have a child that we always wanted, and he's only 2, and now he's going to grow up without a father. So I was cross with God. I was like cross with life, and name it, and I was it. And that started my journey into, without me knowing at the time, into who the hell am I, I don't need to prove anything anymore. I'm super successful. I change people's lives every single day because I had a business where I took unemployed people, but they had skills and I self-developed them and I let them see their value. And I really went deep into self-development. My heart was into them. And when they saw their value, I aligned their values with my values, and together, collectively, we built the most amazing business, a top 10 business, which as truck drivers, general laborers, and a couple of executives in there, But people didn't give us a chance. When I started, people said to me, don't do that. They're going to kill you. You know, you're the only white person in sight. And I just thought, I see the person. They need help. I can do it. I don't know where I got it, but it was just part of me. And I did it. And now I'm here. Who do I speak to? Because I'm super successful. I can't speak to anybody because they don't want to see you a failure. I don't want to look like one. And there I am. I lost everything that was dear to me. And my journey with Who Am I started. And that opened the door to my young life and what happened to me and why certain things up to then that I ignored actually took place in my life. So a long story short, yes, we do remember. We know where it happened.
That is so powerful. And something you said when you said you said 15, there was a voice in your head. Now, would you
Yeah.
say as you were growing up, would that be because I realize we all have some voice in our heads? I know for myself, when I think back on my journey, there's always been a voice, although I really wasn't conscious of it, but now I think about it, there's always been a voice in my head. And it was one of those voices where I realized that about 80, 85% of it was negative self-talk, as far as either trying to do something and tell myself, well, you probably couldn't do that, or wanting to get solved with something and say, well, it probably won't work. And those types of beliefs and those types of things that's running on kind of like autopilot in a sense.
Yes.
And it wasn't until I went ahead and started addressing those thoughts that really things, success started happening for me. So would you say on your own journey, that voice in your head, would you say was always positive, negative? Like what was that voice in your head? How would you, or I guess the better ways, was it empowering or disempowering most of the time? What would you say?
It's a very interesting question that I actually looked at it myself because I believe at 15 it was a pure guidance voice. I always said I'm very connected to God. Whoever people think he is, I'm very connected to him in my personal capacity, you know, because I had to survive what I saw and what I experienced as a young child. I always said that's where I go, that's who I speak to, and it worked for me. So I trusted that voice, and that voice was never ever wrong. It saved me. It saved my life many, many times, and it's back with me and it's guiding me. But then when I went through the dark night of my soul and I was cross with life and cross with God and cross with everyone, that voice changed. And then I entered the era of a negative voice where all the bad that I could have seen from my past, I saw. And it reminded me of it. And where I was so confident and charismatic before, I turned into this victim, into no confidence, into feeling worth nothing. Name it, and I've been there. Resentment, anger, bitterness, unforgiveness. I harbor that, and that voice kept it there until one day it was like a visit from the old voice that said to me, just look at your life, and it's not too long ago, just look at your life and compare what worked for you in the past when you were successful. And is that what's evident now? And I looked at my life like two pieces, you know, next to each other, two screens. And the one is extremely like changing lives and really being in my purpose. And the next one is this hurt. I self-blamed myself because my company got targeted by a crime syndicate, and I fought them, but I eventually had to close my doors because it became too dangerous for my son and myself. And I had to leave my house next to the sea and move away from it, furniture and all, move away with nothing, my dogs, my child, and our stuff in the car, 1,800 kilometers away, and my valuables packed in storage in crates. So imagine you're moving from this mansion next to the sea to a cottage into an area where you don't know one person, you don't know what's going on. All you want is safety and peace around you. And I gave up my financial security. So I was really probably the ideal target to be negative and cross and hurt. But the most of it, I blamed myself and I kept on saying, maybe I could have handled it differently. Maybe I could have done something differently. You know how we are. And that criticism on me brought up all the childhood. I've never been loved, you know. I'm not good enough. I've never had this, so I'm not good enough. That I'm not good enough just got bigger and bigger, and it nearly swallowed me. And that's when I looked at these two screens and I thought, wait a minute, what are you doing to yourself? You're busy to destroy yourself, because this is going to destroy. It's busy destroying my health, my mental capacity, my work. I didn't know where I fit in. I couldn't do what I love. All I did was study. Thank goodness I carried on with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the turning point in my life. But so yes, you get the positive and you get the negative.
Mm-hmm. Wow, powerful stuff. So I guess the next question becomes, how can people find out more about you, what you do, and what you're up to at the moment?
They can contact me on info@madelaineginternational.com. And I do free consultations for the first 20 minutes just to see if we are fit and what they need and if I can help them, because I like to be trustworthy and authentic in what I do. And then we can take it from there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Well, there you have it, guys. Madelaine, as you could tell, she's really good at what she does. She has an awesome story as well too, and she sees something a lot of people don't. I know when it comes to success, a lot of people just focus on the external, as far as the techniques, the strategy, all these different things. But what she does is a little bit different. It's more of the internal stuff, which is, I found that that's typically the most powerful stuff. I always like to say we don't have business problems, we have personal problems, and they reflect in our businesses or in our lives and stuff like that. So if you're struggling, if any of what Madelaine said with you here on today's interview, it resonates with you, I'd highly recommend contacting her, whether it's on Facebook, through our website, just reaching out to her just to see what she could do to kind of help you as you're on your journey. So again, Madelaine, thank you so much for being here today. I really, really appreciate it. And do you have any final words before we end for the day?
Well, thank you, Extus. This is an honor for me to be on your show. I really love your work. I have huge respect for you. And I also realized that your story, you know, didn't come overnight and it didn't come easy. So I take my hat off to you. So yeah, let's collaborate and see where this goes.
Awesome. Thank you. And we'll be in touch, okay?
Thank you, Extus.
Awesome.